There you go. Now,
Thanks for
I
reminding me.
just want to remind you, while I think of it, the recordings hang around for 30 days.
Okay.
And then they disappear. So it can be part of your homework to listen to the recording again and do more notes. So when we're talking, you're only writing a word or a phrase.
Okay.
You're not trying to write everything I utter,
Good idea.
Right?
Yep.
Okay, so I think you've got a good handle on the magician. So we're doing well here. Now, one of the more complicated cards in the deck is the High Priestess. So talk me through the imagery.
The High Priestess and the Empress is they're
No,
so
the Empress
close
is
together.
a different card.
I know, but they're close together and they're both.
Sorry, yeah.
So the High Priestess is someone who is mysterious, to say that. I don't have to face it to you.
I know there's an instinct.
Is someone who is very mysterious, and she stands between what is the unknown, the subconscious or the esoteric, to the known. And she's got the little scroll in front of her that's kind of like the records of all of our lives, the Akashic.
No, it's actually the Torah. Yeah.
So
the Jewish Torah. Okay.
Jewish Torah. Yeah.
So she had the thing with the High Priestess, right? As you know, it's the feminine principle of wisdom and knowledge through time, right? But the little clues are there. The Christian cross takes us back 2,000 years of Christianity. The Torah on her lap takes us back 5,500 years of the Jewish tradition, right?
Yep.
She has the headdress of Isis, which takes us back 8,000 years or something.
Sure.
And then at her feet, the crescent horns, and they were the symbol of Diana the Huntress. Back in the mists of time, the ancient goddesses of Greece and Rome and beyond. So what we've tried to do, and what the High Priestess is about, is she has all the female knowledge and wisdom that predates all the patriarchal religions. And the secrecy is, as the patriarchal religions came on board, women had to do this in secret.
Yes.
That's why she's so secretive. Women have always done this stuff, but they had to do it secretly or they'd be burned as witches or whatever,
Yeah.
So that's her story. Now, with the political readings, which is why I'm banning you from doing political reading. You probably don't do them anyway, but for 8 weeks, there's a ban. And the reason is we've all of us professional readers have done hundreds of these readers for these truly awful people. Right, so you would have heard us say over and over, High Priestess, oh, they've got secret agendas, and it's actually a really jaundiced interpretation of that card, and so many of the cards. The Six of Pentacles, oh, money laundering, right? Because that's who we're dealing with. And I don't want you to have those things in the front of your brain. I want you to learn the more conventional meanings for normal people, right?
Yep.
So with the High Priestess, in a reading, it's more about someone it's a bit like the Hermit, take time out for some deeper learning and to listen for the signs and the symbols and to just take quiet time to increase your deeper knowledge,
Yeah, that gives me new insight. I love it.
Yeah, very similar to the Hermit. We'll get to the Hermit. Okay, we're doing well here. But I just need to know where your head's at, so that's why we'll barrel through these.
I love this.
Oh, great. The Empress. What's going on in her card?
All right. The Empress. when somebody draws this card, I always tell them that the Empress is a strong feminine character that is extremely pregnant with all the possibilities, not just with childbirth or with caring for people, but with ideas or a future sense of aha moment. And the Empress also cares for the earth. She's very earthbound. She is very strong. She wears the crown. She's also very sexual.
Yes. Very, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, she's a hottie, you know. That's right. Now, just a little backstory. Pamela Coleman Smith, who was the artist for the original Rider-Waite, right? It helps to know a bit about her because it gives you a bit of background on how she arrived at a lot of these images, right? So she came of age in the 20s and 30s in a very wealthy family, and she lived in Jamaica as a child, and the real Jamaica, not Jamaica, New York. But she lived between New York and London. Now, the 20s and 30s were a wonderful time to be wealthy. I mean, any time's obviously all right, but they were excited about comparative religions, right? The pyramids had just been unearthed, you know, the tomb of the kings and all of that. So they were excited about Egypt, right? And the wealthy always had salons where they would have the greatest intellects and the greatest artists and the greatest musicians. You know, that's who they mixed with. So that's why it's such a sophisticated deck in many ways, right? But she also came of age in the suffragette movement, right? That was all going on while she was a young woman. And that's why that symbol on the Empress card, which is also Venus in astrology, where was I going with that? Oh, with Venus. And we all forgot about that symbol for 50 years, and then it came through with the first wave of feminism again. Remember the second wave in the 70s? We used the women's symbol.
Right.
Okay? But she knew about it then. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
So her actual life is important because the wealthy could always experiment and play, whether it was sexually or with mysticism, whereas the middle class and the working class were off to mass every Sunday or off to their Baptist church, and their worlds were very narrow. For the aristocracy and the wealthy, it was much more, they were interested. She uses pomegranates, for example, on everything because they were fascinated by the Middle East, right? It wasn't this scary, dark place. It was a fascinating place. So I think it helps to actually understand all that when you look at the cards too. You know? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's good.
Cool. So she is all those things you said, whereas her husband's energy is different, the Emperor. What have we got going on with the Emperor?
Stubborn. That's how when I look at him, I just see,
for sure.
I see my second ex. Somebody who it's my way or the highway, and he actually called me a child of Satan. But a very strong masculine energy. I honestly forget what the rams mean. I know they mean something.
Well, they're Aries in astrology,
Aries.
you know, yeah.
And he's got the scepter showing that his way is right. He can be very comforting. Obviously, I married that guy because he could take care of me. I mean,
and that's his plus side.
Yeah, that's the plus side of him.
He protects others. But when I was learning, I used to make up little stories about each of the major arcana to help me remember them. And the story I came up with for him was he'd conquered somewhere. He's got the armor on. But he doesn't want to be just a general now. He wants to be an emperor, right, with the emperor's robes. But he's just pulled up the robes so you can still see the armor. So he's saying, I am now the emperor, but do not fuck with me because I'll take your head off, right?
Yeah.
So when he turns up in a reading,
That's what I was going to ask next.
it tends to be bossy male energy.
Okay.
A difficult father, a domineering partner, an unpleasable boss, and I think when you read for people, don't be shy about asking them too, because a lot of new readers sort of think, I should know this. Ooh. Whereas if you're an experienced campaigner, you just go, really? Well, what do you think that is? So this is a good example of that. You go, look, this is domineering male energy somewhere in your life, and they'll usually volunteer it. Oh yes, that's this one, or that's my brother who still thinks I'm 6, or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't be afraid to ask people.
Yeah. When I listen to this again, I'm going to write that one down.
Yeah, but again, when you listen to the recording, it's a good way to embed it, and then you write your notes.
Yes. Yes. I stop doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's the Emperor energy.
Yeah.
Now we come to the Hierophant, and it's one students often struggle with. The Hierophant. What about you?
I like the Hierophant. The Hierophant. I like it because it's law and order, it's rules and regulations, whether it be of church or the office, the political office. I mean, it's understanding. It's everything that could be placed in a small box and not much outside where everybody does the thinking.
Right. It's sort of the social rules. So it is
social rules.
Law and order, government, and organized religion. And so in the original Rider-Waite, it's one of the cards we changed the visuals on more than most, because I wanted to step you through that. You've got the church, you've got the courthouse, and you've got Capitol Hill to sort of step you through it.
Yeah.
Now, the thing with the Hierophant is when that works to keep people safe and it's good. But it can also be very repressive. So if you're a 14-year-old gay in Idaho, the Hierophant is not your friend. They're going to put you into conversion therapy because they want you to conform to the box, right? So just remember, it's that spectrum from repressive all the way to, all the positive things.
Yeah.
But I think you understand that. So as an example, when I was a young thing in the 70s and a young activist, I couldn't read. We'd pull cards and read the book, and we'd go, ooh, yuck, the Hierophant, ooh. And now with Trump, it's like, oh, thank God the Hierophant's here, So in a way, that little story encompasses the Hierophant,
Yeah.
Okay, so it can be very repressive and ruin lives, or it can be positive and keep it all ticking over.
And I love it that the artist put the Ruth Bader Ginsburg by the church there, and she's not quite.
Isn't it brilliant?
She's thinking about it, but not quite there. Can't put her in a box.
She turns up a couple of times in this deck.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so now we're on to the Lovers.
And I know, okay, the Lovers, this is like the Adam and the Eve in the garden, and they're naked because they basically know everything about each other already. There's no secrets here.
Good, yeah.
And one of the angels are over them, kind of blessing their union. But there's also a mountain that looks like it has a possible volcano in the back that could erupt at any point. And there is a snake here. which it depends upon how you look at a snake. I mean, if you look at it from the Christian point of view.
Exactly, yeah.
And if you look at it from a different point of view, it means a medical society, and the snake is a symbol of things going all the way back into prehistory.
Yeah, and because it sheds its skin and re-emerges, it's about the cycle of life and all of that too. But the little subtle thing that I'd like to point out is the Eve figure is looking up for celestial inspiration.
Yeah.
And Adam's looking at her tits.
Isn't that appropriate?
Isn't it? So Pamela Coleman Smith, the artist in the original, I think this was deliberate too. She very cleverly, by the tilt of their heads, she flips the whole Adam and Eve thing on its head.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The feminine principle and conduit to spirit, and he actually needs her to get there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's cool.
The mountain, mostly mountains are about obstacles, challenges. So the generic message is the path of true love doesn't run smooth, right?
Yeah.
They will have challenges. But depending who you're reading for, people will ask you all the time, will I meet somebody? You know, so my answer usually is not in your lounge room. Have you been out lately? You know, but anyway, yes, it can be romantic love, but just as often it's about any other form of merger. So that is, you can write this down, these 3 words are helpful, I think. Contracts, pacts and treaties. So if someone says to me, will my house sell by next April, and I get the lover's card, that's a good sign, right? Mm-hmm. You'll sign a contract. So you know the romantic stuff, just remember it's any other form of formal merger.
Okay.
Okay? Good.
It's a good point. I love it.
Yeah. Now we move on to the Chariot.
Yes. In the Rider-Waite, it's always a very fast-moving thing that's happening. Whatever is happening in their life, it's quick. It means that it's coming at a speed. And I always make a point in the Rider-Waiter deck to say that there's no reins.
Yes. And there are reasons for that. We decided to put reins in because it was confusing. You know how the Rider-Waite has the stone sphinxes in front of the Chariot, and the card's all about movement. So it was confusing to new readers.
That's true.
In a way. So it's one of the few cards where I think she didn't quite nail it. You know what I mean? There was an esoteric, huge thing of why that was happening, and the no reins, you know, but we tried to make it clearer. So with the reins coming together, it's about bringing different forces together into one to move forward, and it's usually rapid movement after adversity or after stagnation. So I just draw your attention.
I like the fact that in the reins, it's a very loose hold, and he's not masterful. I mean, he can still go either way.
Yes, exactly. That's very smart of you to pick up. That's exactly what's going on, right?
Yeah.
The point is, you now, for the reader, to the person, you now have the reins. What are you going to do to move forward and leave the rest behind, you know?
Can you explain I don't know if you can see that there, but the
symbol on his chest? I think we chose those just as in the book it'll explain it's a symbol of guardianship or whatever it is, you know. We went through generic Asian symbology and chose those. So it'll be there in the book if it's important.
Okay.
But they were basically, we wanted something more Asian, so basically we just selected.
Oh, sure. He looks a little Asian now that I look at him.
Yeah, yeah.
I can see that. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how they came about,
So when somebody gets this in their reading, it means that they are moving forward.
And they're
but
equipped
they don't have a
to
really
move forward.
Huh?
They're equipped to move forward.
They're equipped.
They've got their shield, they've got their reins, they've got their chariot, they're ready to move forward.
But they still may not have mastery as to exactly where they're going.
That's
they
right.
still have to put some thought into it. That's how I usually.
Yes, and you could draw clarifiers on that.
Right.
And so forth for an individual. But usually it's quite a straightforward card,
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good. Now we come to the very beautiful strength card.
Yeah. Well, she's one of my favorites. And I think it is a feminine form that is conquering quite a bit on earth, whatever it is that she is conquering, and she does it with love. She does it with compassion. She does it with care. The lion that I was going to show you, but the lion that she is conquering loves her.
Loves her.
Will allow
the tail's down. He's submissive to her.
Yes. And that is utter strength. If you can conquer a lion and put your hand in his mouth, not much is stronger than that. And there's a glow around her as well. So she's almost like doing this with esoteric strengths and
absolutely.
She's very and she's barefoot. I never noticed that before, but she's barefoot on the ground.
Yeah, no fear. And just straight through like the magician, the heaven and the earth.
Yeah.
Okay. And so
exactly. I just got that right now.
Yeah. No, that's why we're doing it one-on-one. It's got to work for your brain. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
So generically, it's the message there are many types of strength more than brute strength, so it's a card of inner strength.
Yes.
But it can also be taming your animal instincts. You might like to write that down for the strength card because it gets forgotten a bit. Taming your animal instincts.
I like that.
Right. So now we're up to number 9. I think we're up to the Hermit, yeah?
Yeah, we're up to the Hermit.
Goodness, we're whipping through.
Yeah. Well, these are also fascinating. I love each card. As I say, I am enthralled with tarot. Since turning 70, I've had 3 passions: tarot, chakra cleansings, which I find out the chakra is your soul, and my tortoises.
Ah, when I was in Italy at this Airbnb, she had this tortoise. She was given this tortoise, and it used to just walk around the yard. So sweet.
They are. They're incredibly. They're just. Today I was cooking in the kitchen, and he just came right in the kitchen and walked with me from side to side. I have to be careful.
How big is he?
Well, they're Russian tortoises, so they're kind of like that.
Yeah, that's the size.
And then I have a 2-year-old female I just bought, so she's kind of like that. So they can be squashed. So I got to be very careful.
Yeah, you have to be careful. Yeah.
I only leave them out a half an hour a day to have the whole house, but I love her.
Oh, great.
The Hermit card is, again, highly esoteric. It's for someone who is actually searching within and searching probably the globe for the meaning of life, the deeper qualities, the things that feed the soul, things that help you grow and establish yourself. And what happens when you do that is you also have a light that shines out for others.
Yes.
To give them light to find a path as well. It's all about finding your path. And he's even leaving little foot tracks in the snow here, the cold snow, to show where he has been. And he's got a staff, and the staff kind of helps to manifest, but also helps to guide where you're going.
Yes, exactly. It's funny, Faye, reading for people in the last 2 years, everyone got the hermit card. And so it's my COVID card now too, because we all had to hermit. And it didn't matter what age they were, what country they were in, what walk of life, they'd have all these cards and the hermit.
Isn't that something?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
You know?
Tarot has never failed to just shock me like that.
Yeah.
And I always use that one card. I don't know what it is, but the awakening card as a spiritual awakening. And how many people that I'm delighted get that, because then we talk about spiritual awakening.
Yes.
And how important that is. And they say, is that what's going on with me?
Yeah. Because I do believe as a collective, we're being asked to change frequency, basically.
I do.
We can't patch this up and patch that up anymore. We have to lift our game altogether. And I'm amazed how many people are detached from that. Nice people, but they don't have a spiritual framework to put it in. And so they're just going, oh, you know.
And that's what our job is.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. So just before we leave the hermit, it's also the card of higher learning. So if someone says, will my niece go to college or something, and they get the hermit, it's a sign of that. Right?
Great.
Yeah.
And the obstacles are all, as you said earlier, and also the cloud around him. I mean, he's very grounded, even though he's on snow, he's very grounded between earth and sky. And that would be the so above, the so below, right?
Yes. It recurs.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, the thing is, too, what was I going to say about it? As in the Western societies that we live in, people are not good at being in their own inner world. Many live alone, and loneliness is an issue, but it's not the same thing.
Right.
It is not the same thing. They will fill that time with screen time and whatever. We're not good at spiritually our own development, because we come from 2,000 years of being told what to think and what to believe. Exactly. So we're not very good at it, you know.
So the hermit card also addresses loneliness?
It can, but not in a negative way.
No, a way of being able to feel that. It's the positive
thing of loneness as opposed to loneliness, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I hadn't looked at it in that way. Yeah. That he's filling himself. The hermit is actually filling himself with his own
search and inquiry and way of being.
Yeah.
And
so he's also, now that I look at him even more, he's looking out at you as to where are you on your life.
Yes. Very good. All right, so now we're up to the Wheel of Fortune. We've got to the halfway mark, which is excellent.
The Wheel of Fortune. Now, this is one every single time I get on a reading. I kind of make it up because I don't get it myself. So this is a good one. Yeah.
Now, you're not alone in that. Instead of asking you, I'll talk to you and then you can pick up what I'm talking about. So first of all, write down the 3 words: fate, karma, and destiny.
And destiny, okay.
Now, in the 4 corners, we have 4 power animals in a way. So we have, well, not all animals, obviously, there's the angel. Then we've got the phoenix, because in the original Rider-Waite, it could look like an eagle or a phoenix, and we decided to make a decision, so we've made it more phoenixy.
I like that. Yeah, I like it a
And
lot.
there's the bull and the lion, right? Now, they've all got wings, which is telling us they're celestial or heavenly creatures, right? The
Okay.
actual and the other animals, right? They've all got books. So knowledge is power. Now, for years, I was happy with that. Knowledge is power. And then a student said to me a year or two ago, could that book be the Akashic record?
That's what I was thinking.
Duh. Totally. It's the card of karma, fate, and destiny. Of course it's the Akashic record. I'd missed it for 40 years, right? This is why I love teaching. You can always learn. Okay, so if you think of the book as the Akashic record, it makes the card easier to work with.
Okay.
So you've got the snake sort of, these figures in the middle are just to imply movement of the wheel, right? The snake going down and the mermaid coming up, right? Because in the Rider-Waite, the figure was a very weird Egyptian figure with a hyena's head or something, and no one ever got it. So we just decided to make it a mermaid. Okay. But that all they're doing on the card is to imply the wheels moving.
Okay.
Now, someone gets the Wheel of Fortune. I'm a great believer generally that all cards are positive unless otherwise indicated, with things. So 80% of the time, 90% of the time, it's good fortune. What I'm saying is it's not 50-50, it's usually a good fortune moment in time. And you're getting good, something good from the universe because you've earned it. So if the next door neighbour breaks her hip and you do her shopping for a month and then she lends you her car because yours broke down, you're getting good karma because you've earned it. Okay. Now, for today, we'll do one more card and stop because the second half has all the heavy cards like Death and the Tower and all, and we need to spend time on those.
Yeah.
So I don't want to just cram them in at the end of a lesson.
Yeah.
Right. So we will do the Justice card and then we'll stop and we'll talk about your homework.
Okay. I love it. I told everybody I'm going to be getting homework. Okay, the Justice card. Well, she again with a little white collar is the
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah. This is a more difficult card for me when I have this in a reading because what does this mean personally? But we'll get into, you'll help me with that one.
Yeah.
But it's obvious that she's weighing her scales. She's balancing things out. She's got the sword of truth in her hand. She's ready to deliver justice. One foot is kind of showing and one foot is not. I don't know if that is symbolic in there. And the purple robe is, well, Jesus wore purple, they said. And then the white pillars are. But can you elaborate on it all?
Yes, I certainly will. And the first thing I'll say is Jesus so did not wear purple. Purple is one of the colours that's hardest to make. And it wasn't until the medieval kings sort of worked it out, or the tradespeople worked it out. So yeah, it's part of the mythology of Jesus.
Well, they just do that then on Lent, and I got sugared all these times. 70 years of that.
Okay, so I think the easiest way to understand the Justice card is to compare it with the Judgment card, which is right near the end of the Major Arcana.
Yep.
Okay, and we'll come to that next week. But Justice, it tends to be personal. So it's one of those cards where I ask the person, right? My first thing, I see the Justice card and I go, have you got any legal issues that are outstanding? Is there a divorce underway? Are you having mediation at work? Anything specifically legal is the first port of call, right?
Yep.
And
Okay.
sometimes it'll be yes, and sometimes if it's no, no, none of that's happening. It's my card of social justice. So just write that down for the justice card. One is literal legal stuff, and the second is social justice. And it's saying to me that the person you're reading for has a social justice conscience. There's an awareness there, but it's time to act on it.
Yep.
To take up their sword as a keyboard warrior or in any form whatsoever, to do something to create justice, social justice. That can be a retired teacher who teaches literacy in a poor school to kids who are falling through the cracks, and they work with 4 kids a week or 1 kid a week or something. That, to me, is social justice in action because it's changing that child's life.
Yes.
It could be taking up an environmental issue. So you've got one is reading it quite literally.
Right.
And the other is more abstract. Yeah?
Yeah. But it has nothing to do with their life itself, that it has very little to do with them as.
Oh, no, I think it's everything to do with them. It's what can they do, should do, must do to act on this.
Okay.
Sorry, 2 huge dogs are playing in the hall and it sounds like there's 6 bison.
I know you. I know.
They don't do it often now, they're mature, but they've just come.
Say they're very big.
They're huge. Okay. All right. So, homework is playing this recording and jotting down any extra little things, that you need to scratch out. And I'll put this in an email too.
Okay.
Read each of the raves in the book for each card, but do it separately, Faye. Otherwise, they mash in your head. Read the Fool and then do the dishes. Read another one, not even in order, just 1 to 11 or 0 to 11. You can do them in any order. And the third thing is testing yourself without notes. So you're doing the dishes and you go, what do I remember about the chariot? Or what do I remember about the Hierophant? Damn, I always forget that thing about organized religion or whatever. The way you really embed knowledge is testing yourself so you can put it in there. Yeah?
Yeah.
But I'll put that in an email shortly. Just a second. One world test recording. Now, the other thing, I'll put this in the email too, is because not next week, but the week after, we'll be starting little reads. So what we need is a question bank. We need dozens and dozens of questions. So start coming up with at least 10 questions.
And not political ones.
Not political. And so ask your friends and neighbours. You say, look, I need this for my classes. Have you got any questions for me? Ring the relations. Have they got any questions? Usually people love to be asked. Now, if you do all that and you've still only got 6 questions by our 3rd week, I'm talking, so you've got 2 weeks to do this, right? You can resort to celebrity questions. Now, I know this sounds stupid, but it works. So to pad out your list of questions. So will Brad and Angelina get back together? Who cares? But people are going to ask you, oh, my son and his wife, they're separated. Are they going to get back together? They're still useful, right? Will Beyonce have another baby? We don't care. But someone's going to ask you about pregnancy questions. So do you see what I'm saying?
Yep.
Okay. So friends, relations, neighbours first. If not, a bit of padding. But because we'll be going through so many questions, we need shitloads. So I would also suggest keeping a book or part of your notebook dedicated just to questions, because once you start this process of asking people and stuff, you'll start thinking of questions yourself, and you need to put them in one place quickly. You know what I mean? Not scribble them down and think I'll put them, no. Just keep one place. Yeah.
Yep.
How exciting.
I know, this is just a thrill. It's just absolute thrill.
You're off and running.
Yep.
It's just fantastic.
Yes, it is.
All right. And like I said, the first 3 or 4 weeks, there's lots of homework, right?
Okay.
And then it drops away. By about week 4, it just drops away and we're just reading and having fun. But there will be work on the suits and other things, so there'll be homework for these first 4 weeks.
Good.
Now, does this time slot suit you?
Yeah, this is fine.
I'm loving that because I like to keep it the same.
Yeah. What I don't know, and I'll have to ask Bill this. We're not really married, but I call him my husband.
Yeah, it's just easier.
How do I keep this Skype? I always just thought I had Skype. How do I get this permanent? So I got Skype on my computer, but he can help me with that, I hope.
He'll help you with that, and it's staggeringly easy. Right, so don't sweat that.
Okay.
Okay, now hang on a minute. We will be starting with card 12 next week.
Yep.
And like I said, we'll be dealing with the big guns. So we need to spend more time on them.
Okay. And you want me to go through them too before that?
No, I don't want you to think about them.
Okay.
You're only thinking about what we did today and bedding that down. Don't jump ahead. Okay, that's one thing you don't have to do.
Good. I won't. But I'll play with my tortoises instead.
Yeah, that's right. All right, honey, I'll write you that email right now so it's all fresh in my brain too. And you'll have your homework tasks.
Yes. How wonderful is this? Thank you, Lena, and I'll see you next week.
It's a total thrill, and you're already reading, so this is icing on the cake. And it's good that you're asking me, look, please explain this to me in more detail.
Yeah.
But I put a lot of effort into the book because that's coming from teaching hundreds of people now. It's what students kept coming back with, so it's very targeted.
Ideal. It's just, as I said, it moves me to tears when I first got it. It was exactly what I needed to hear. So
yeah.
And I have helped, like I'm sure you know this, but sitting down with people and said, well, my mother strangled me when I was 6 years old, and
you get some doozies, don't you?
I know. And a walk-in spirit. I have a walk-in spirit with me now. What should I do? But as a social worker, I was able to say that walk-in spirit has to love you more than anything else. If it stops loving you, then it's not a good spirit. You have to be filled with love for yourself,
Yes. But your social work background is gold in this context because people do come to you with huge traumatic issues. And often they don't lead with that. I just want to know if, my son's getting married, and then before you know it, you're dealing with these huge things.
Yeah.
So what we'll be talking about starting next week, particularly with the heavy cards, we'll be talking about the ethics of reading.
Good.
What you help with and what you don't. Okay.
Right. And I did not use the cards at all to help her with. She had a half an hour reading, thank God, but most of that was me talking.
Yes.
And she felt
and
better.
that's what you're
Yeah.
bringing to the table,
Yes.
particularly in these critical cases. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Brilliant. So I'll see you at this time next week.
Yep.
So have the last slot ready and off we go.
Off we
Now, if you
go.
think of anything or you don't get something, you can always email me
Okay.
or write it down for next week because we
Okay.
think we'll remember, but we don't.
Will do.
So if you think of a question, write it down.
Okay.
Okay, honey.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.